DJ, put a beat on. Let it drop, let it drop. There's the credits. I'm giving my you got a speech going on, but you don't know what to do with your hand. Then this video should really be in your plan. Hope it goes well. I hope you the best man. Hope it goes well, and I hope it makes you mans. Hope it makes you grands. Hope it makes you people shouting your name like some fans. Hope you make some bands. Hope you make it out from the beach to the sand. Hope you make some money, and I hope you make it candy and candid. You can do anything that God did, put his hands in. Speaking of hands in, let me pause the beat and speak about your hands, twin. Okay, I finally figured out what to do with my hands in a speech. And hi, I'm Luca, and at the age of 18, I've already delivered speeches in front of 2,000 people. I've competed in public speaking competitions. I've lost, I've won, I've received standing ovations. This is something I actually enjoy speaking on, reading about, getting better at. Okay, public speaking is pretty cool and I like it. So in today's video, I'll be telling you what I do with my hands. And I hope that through just me sharing what I deem my cheat sheet for hand theory and speeches, I hope it can be useful to you. So, okay, I'm going to be completely honest with you here. I wrote down a bunch of bullet points and I said, hey, AI, here's my bullet points for this YouTube video. Make me a Google Doc for it. So this is just going to be used largely to guide my thoughts. But I'm going to just riff off of these bullet points and don't, take this as, the gospel here. This is just, some AI bullet points, but it's my words just written by a robot. Hope you don't like me less, but who cares? So what we want to do is we want our hands not to take away from our words, but rather to highlight them. And if you can get that key concept, right from the start, our hands are used to highlight our words. And if there's a moment where they start taking away from our words, then we just want to minimize that or reduce our hands. They are used to highlight, okay? So here we have point one. This is opening position of our hands. If you can look at the picture here, that's kind of what we want. I'll move my laptop back so I can get in the full frame in a second. But when we open our speech, I literally open my speech the same way every single time. Because hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it works really, really well. Let me just see if I can put myself in frame here. Yes. Let me move back, move you back. So whenever you open a speech, you always want to have your hands out to the side like this, okay? And you always want forward movement. So I'm talking right from the get-go. Hello everyone, it's Luca. Welcome back to another YouTube video. Good morning everyone, I hope your weekend was lovely. Mine was great. Hi guys. Whatever the opening is, you always want revealed torso, hands out to the side. It doesn't have to be this magic show reveal trick, but you just want your hands out to the side, opening your speech the same way, right from the start. All right, I hope that's clear. And what this does, I could go into all the theory, which I will. So basically, if we go back to our primal days as cavemen and I don't know what the word is, Neanderthals, essentially, if we could see our palms, we are safe because there's no, hands behind our back. We can see that there's nothing in our hands. There's no club in our hand. There's no threat, no danger. Survival, chances of survival increase. So when people just see open palms, it puts our audience at ease. So they can just focus on us and not think, hey, is this guy a threat? When it comes to the open torso as well, this is largely to reveal to our audience, hey guys, we come in peace, we're safe. But then also, it's largely for us as well, because when we have an open body language like this, it makes us feel more confident. Because I found that if we want to change the way we feel internally, we don't begin by addressing the internal, we first address the external. So if our external actions and body language align with confidence, the internal will follow the external. Does that make sense? So external confidence is open body language, revealed torso. We're taking up the space of the room or the space we have in the chair. The internal begins to follow. Okay. So open torso, that's more for us. Open palms, that's more for the audience. Either way, it's a win-win here. So opening a speech, same thing. It works. Trust me, or at least try it for yourself and then make up your own assessment. But let's move on to the second point then. So this is a little box here. It's essentially from shoulder width down up to like your belly button, up to the chest, your collar. And we generally want to stay, for the most part, within this box. And the reason this is because when we leave the box, we want that to be very known. We want that to be very clear. So when we raise our hands, we want everyone to know his hands are raised in the air. When we drop our hands, it's almost in the feet, but we want it to be noticed. But we want the baseline and the benchmark to be within that box, because once again, we use our hands to highlight. And so when we go up out of the box, it's simply going to be used to highlight. Okay, so the box is our base, our resting point, and we're going to occasionally going to leave the box for emphasis in order to highlight our words, because that's what our hands are for here, highlighting our words, not trying to take away from them. So, it's, and if we look at it from some body language, POV, some TED Talk psychology, it's controlled, it's slightly confident, it is confident. If you hold your hands here in front of you, you're comfortable. It's just it's a strong gesture for the most part. However, I do want to mention that for the large, this is another point in the video, but I do like to keep my torso as open as possible. So generally my hand resting position won't be in front of me like this, but rather open. My hands are kind of out of the frame here, but they are open like that. With whether it's key cards, let me move this back. Whether it's with key cards in my hand here, or a pointer to change the slide on the whiteboard or the TV screen, my hands are generally out to the side because I like to reveal that torso. Okay. I keep looking at the little camera frame to see if I'm in frame. It's my worst fear. Recording a whole video and then looking to see if I'm in it, and then only half my face is in it. That's awfully specific. It's almost as though that's happened to me before. Next up, we have stepping outside the box for emphasis, which I already mentioned. I jumped the gun a bit, but don't worry about it because you're still getting to the third point. So the box is our base. It's a strong base, confident base. It gives very strong cues, and it helps us feel good, and it helps the audience feel at ease. All right, and doesn't take away from our words. But what it does perfectly is it gives us this opportunity to emphasize our words further, even further, by simply leaving the box. So what I did there, here's my box. Okay, it's slightly different because I'm sitting down. It's a YouTube video. My hands aren't even in frame. But I elaborate by raising my hands out of the box, and then I return back to the box. So, okay, contrast equals impact. If everything's big, nothing is. That's a very important point, which, it ties in with another mistake here, which I had. It was simply rhythmic up and down bobbing of the hands. But yeah, essentially, if everything is, I can't remember who it was. It could just be some Reddit story, but it was these Russian mafia guys who never use their hands in conversation. And so their hands would always just be resting. And so if they ever had to, if a deal didn't go their way or something, and they had to quickly reach for their pistol and, shoot the other mafia bad guys, that action of reaching for their gun would be very, very noticeable because they had zero movement. And then all of a sudden, any movement is instantly noticed. So they obviously wanted to, hey, how do we use our hands so that when we do reach for a pistol, no one really notices? I don't know where I heard that. It could have just been a dream that came to me. What could made it up on the spot? But whatever, you get the idea. So if we have no movement, any movement is then noticeable. But if we have really big highlights and really big movement, and we're just jumping out of the box the whole time, everything is highlighted on a page, and we don't really know what's important then. So that's why I'm just making it very clear that our hands are used to highlight words, not take away from them. We have the box as a resting base, a spawn point in a video game, and we can leave the box whenever we like in order to what? Highlight our word. In order to what? Raise a point. But we always return back to the box. And then there's an exception here. Hands straight down to your side. Literally just down to the side, like a skeleton. You know, in the biology class, the skeleton figurine with his hands down to the side, just like that. And the reason I say this is because there's a really good storyteller named Matthew Dicks who's written a good book, Storyworthy, and it's incredible. It's the holy grail of storytelling. If you read that book, you'll probably be better than 90 whatever percent of the population when it comes to storytelling. But I've listened to his stories, and his stories have, through his little screen, I've connected to him. I've remembered them. They have moved me. They've made me cry. They've made me change my actions through a screen, change behavior through a screen. Tell me that's not powerful. Yet he makes no use of any elaborate hand gestures. He keeps both of his hands down to his side the entire speech or story. And occasionally he raises it up to make a point. So you can also use that approach. The resting point is down at default. The default position would be down at the bottom. And you can raise them here or raise them up there for even more emphasis. But I've personally like to keep the base in the middle and then dropping down or going up as my point of emphasis, all right? But Matthew Dicks, Mr. Matthew Dicks, he's almost completely eliminated his hands from the equation in order to have maximum effort or maximum attention on his words, which is very effective for him because the way he speaks, the way he uses his voice, and the techniques he has implemented into his stories is incredible. So he almost doesn't use his hand. It's like a model with, there's obviously some perfect, beautiful, masculine face, handsome face, and then he buzzes off his hair in order to take away a component which could aid in his appearance, but he shaves his hair so that all the attention is simply on his good-looking, attractive, masculine, handsome face. On his jawline, it highlights his jaw, it highlights his eyebrows, a strong bone structure, whatever. So hair, in this aesthetic example or analogy here, it can make someone look really good. If you have really good hair, you probably look even better. But in the case of the model who's already got really good, a really good looking face, he shaves his head in order to highlight, his face, all right? His facial features, his jaw, his clear skin, his eyebrows, his eyes, I don't know. All right, and same thing goes for his speech. If you have really good words and a really good story and transformation and realization, you can shave your head, you can go buzz cut. And all emphasis will be on that. But you best believe that story, those words have to be good. All right? For me, I'm not going to assume, but for you, the average person who's looking to get better, who's not Matthew Dicks per se, using your hands now and then is probably going to be to your benefit instead of, a buzz cut, all right? Unless you believe you are the supermodel face level speaker. And by all means, I recommend you try it. Because it doesn't hurt to try. See the impact you have on your audience with hands down to the side, no hands, buzz cut. See the impact you have with using your hands now and then. And analyze what works for you and implement that. Open palms equals trust and invitation, used when explaining ideas, asking rhetorical questions, inviting agreement. Open palms equals honesty, calm, inclusion. All right, back to the primal caveman instinct. Open palms, there's nothing in my hands. I'm safe. I'm not hiding any weapons or thorns or poison. I come in peace. And what that immediately does, it puts your audience at peace. And I guess we could even like onion layer this and go even deeper. And when the audience is at peace and you can recognize that, you mirror them and you feel better, etc. Do the palm thing for your audience, and it also helps you come across as far more collaborative. Almost, it's like when you tell someone to do something, it'll almost come across as more of a suggestion. Don't you want to consider, I don't know, subscribing? You know, don't you want to maybe? But if I point to you like that, and my palms are not revealed, so they are hidden. It's almost a bit more commanding. No, I don't really want to subscribe anymore because you're pointing at me and commanding me. But if it's like this, it's almost like, hey, you're getting the idea here. I'm just suggesting it with my open palms. I come in peace. It's merely a suggestion. And then you're free to decide, which you definitely consider because this guy's incredible. Whatever. Then we have a power position. And I always used to think, remember, ooh, ah, ooh, ee, ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ah, ting, tang, whatever I mean. Okay, if you remember Andrew Tate, he always used to have this iconic pose here. And I used to think it was a little weird, like it was cool, Andrew Tate, but if anyone goes and does that in real life, it's pretty weird. Who really does that? Until I listened to a TED talk, and this dude who was at least appeared pretty smart, he was talking about like the neural whatever signals that go on in your brain when you have your fingers like this. You have this pose, and it works really, really well. He said, "Hey, this signals confidence. Try it out. It probably going to work for you because most brains are more or less the same." And so I went and I used it on stage and helped me feel good. All right. And when people see this cue, fingers like this, not tapping, this makes you look like Lex Luthor, like some supervillain from the DC universe. If you just have your fingers held like this in this position, this is a very competent and strong, confident cue. All right, Vanessa Van Edwards, she will agree because I also heard it from her. Just maintaining this pose reveal or signals competence. You're in control. You're in charge. It's very comfy. It helps you feel better. People see it. They perceive you as more in control. All right. So consider that as a pretty good go-to resting pose for your hands. And what you can use here as a guide is, here's your box. This is the resting position. And whenever you want to highlight something, you simply just leave the box. Or you exit this pose. You exit this position. Does that make sense? So this will be the rest in the box, confidence pose. But whenever we want to highlight something or name something, we can always leave the position. I really hope that makes sense here. And that's nearly the end of point 6, but I just want to linger in the moment slightly longer, and I hope you understand this. I hope that you understand when we get really excited, we can raise our hands above our heads and exit the box. And when we get defeated, and we want all the attention and focus to be on the words we're saying, we compare our drooping hands with a slow and steady pace, which puts maximum emphasis on our words. But when we get really, really hype and we're building up the climax of our story, and it's like a roller coaster and everything's rising and everyone's excited, and we finally reach the peak, the pinnacle, the apex of our roller coaster, and everyone's excited, except for me. We can really use our hands, the high and the low, the hot and the cold, the in and the out, to emphasize our words here. Hope that is clear. And what we want to avoid here is rhythmic up and down bobbing. All right, so once again, hands are used to highlight. If we go and highlight the whole page, are we just learning everything? everything's pretty important, but we don't know what's really key here. So we want to, if we just always moving our hands to the beat of the drum, to the words that we say, and if we just do it constantly and constantly, our hands ultimately end up losing significance, and it's just not as strong, and we just end up highlighting the entire page, and we become this rhythmic little bobbing bobblehead whose words and hands don't aid to their word. His hands don't aid to his words. They're not highlighting anything then. They're simply taking away from it. All right. Covering the body, crossed arms. Oh yeah, that just signals, hey, I'm not too confident here. I'm covering up my caveman primal instinct once again. I'm covering up my sensitive parts of the body because I'm not in control. And I feel a little bit at risk and slightly in danger and nervous. So I'm going to cover up my neck, my sensitive parts, my torso, my heart, my organs, because I want to avoid this potential risk. Hands on hips, hands in pockets. Once again, reveal your hands, show that you come in peace, puts the audience at ease, and your internal follows. So these signal nerves, defensiveness, or arrogance. Okay, that's probably true. And and I hope the first point, rhythmic up and down bobbing, really makes it clear. Think of it like this. I've heard of cold showers potentially increasing the dopamine in your brain. But the more cold showers you do, the less that increase is, the less the spike is, the less, it loses its significance. So if our hands act on the same model here, if we just keep doing that all the time, the dopamine spike or the highlighting effect of our hands lose significance. And then eventually it's like a bell curve. It eventually goes down and starts taking away from the impact of our words. And now if you really want a nice little persuasive hand gesture here, some would view it as manipulative or whatever. When I was learning or reading up on Roman rhetoric, they said, oh, tread lightly on this because it's pretty manipulative and it's blah, blah, blah. I've used it, it works, it's pretty cool. I want to give it to you, I don't care. So essentially, when you speak and you want people to agree with you, you just do this with your hand, circular motion. And you can slowly nod with your hand. Does that make sense? And what this does is, I don't know the psychology or the intrinsic human primal ancestral characteristic, which dates back to whatever. But when you do this and you nod, the person looking at you begins to nod as well. And they find themselves nodding and almost agreeing with you. And the more they start nodding to your words, naturally they start saying yes and they start agreeing. It could be some sales hack gimmick, I don't know. But I've used it and it's helped me come across as a bit more persuasive, or my ideas have been a bit more palatable for the audience. My suggestions, it's not as like when I give an idea, it doesn't feel like jumping into cold water. It's more lukewarm. It's a bit more digestible. Does that make sense? And so I've used little micro hand gestures here throughout my speeches and stories to make this not so obvious, like, hey guys, you like agreeing with me, right? No, I've used little almost flamboyant flicks of the wrist. Let me just put this in frame. Flicks of the wrist, which always are paired with the head movement. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So it's again the circular movement with a little nod of the head, and then you can always combine it. And in that moment, I realized that I didn't really enjoy watching soccer. Does that make sense? But rather, I enjoyed spending quality time with my dad. People nod. People say that does make sense. I can get behind that. So use that, and I hope it it's to your benefit. So once again, I want to point out that it's essentially we're in our box. We leave the box to emphasize, and we come back to the box. All right. And if you want this to be your default position with the box, cool. If I personally like to have my hands out a little, like slightly to the side, like that, that's what I like. Try what works for you. See what works for you. Essentially, it's neutral, emphasis, neutral. Okay. Our hands are highlighters. Don't go highlighting the whole page. And if we really want this video, which focuses mainly on theory, to be most beneficial to us, we really need to make our theory practice. So see if you can take one of these little, one of these 8 lessons or tips, actions you can do with your hand, and try go and implement it. When you speak to your mom on video call, use this, see if they nod. As you're explaining your day or explaining what a module or semester, what that terminology even means, maybe they agree. Okay. Take one of them. Don't try go and add everything, because it just flusters and overcomplicates everything. And then you end up not really having any improvement or change in your speaking. So just take one, focus on that, record yourself saying something, saying a speech you've already written before, just with that, slightly different hand gestures. If you want me to personally help you out or see how it goes, check the link in the description. It's all free because I've got the time on my hands now. So hope this video was useful to you, and hope you enjoyed the freestyle in the start.